Welcome to Glowing Success. I'm Heidi, your host. On this show, we dig into aesthetics, marketing, business strategy, wellness, and iridology. Whether I'm flying solo or sitting down with some incredible guests, this is your space to learn, grow, and build something beautiful. So let's get into this next episode. Welcome back to Glowing Success. I was recently back at Aveda Institute Minneapolis, and if you don't know what that place means to me, buckle up because this is where becoming a service provider started for me. So I've shared this in another episode actually, but my first go around with becoming a service provider didn't go very well. I was in full cosmetology school in my early 20s and I just wasn't ready, and honestly I did not have the confidence. So when I decided to go back to school in the beauty industry, I went back for aesthetics. And of course, I made sure to focus, and I was also fully aligned by the time I did go back. Now, I started my business while I was in aesthetic school. That's how motivated I was. And part of that motivation and confidence came from me working in 3 different salons and spas before I decided to go back to school. After I graduated from aesthetics, I went back a year later for massage. So shortly after graduating though, I started teaching lash extensions to other beauty pros and beauty professionals. So I dove right into lash extensions right out of aesthetic school. I also was in laser for a while. I was doing a little bit of everything, but lashes were definitely my thing, okay? I was teaching people, and at the time, Aveda would have a day where people from the industry would come in to share something. So if you had your own program, you could come, share about that. Or if you had a modality that you really loved and you just wanted to share it in something that wasn't taught at Aveda, they would have people come in like that. Okay. So people mostly from the industry could come in and share what they, thought was interesting. I thought it was amazing. So it was basically me and about 4, probably even 5 other businesses that we taught or shared our info. And basically the students would go around and they would rotate through each person that was in this big area. So that day of demos though, that was the first time I felt other than a service provider. So more than just being a service provider. It was I had become a resource. I had, that feeling that, I rose to the occasion type feeling. It stuck with me. And all this to say that building and the time I spent there really shaped how I show up in the beauty and wellness industry today. So that's, yeah. Anyway, okay. So inside Aveda Institute Minneapolis, if you have not ever been, and if you know a little bit about Aveda, that is their flagship place. So that's where Horst started Aveda. And it's an old building. It's gorgeous. But inside of it, there's a room called the Grand. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It is grand. So it is big, it is open, and it is full of energy. So that, it's the kind of room that really holds the moment, so to speak. They have their fashion show there, the Walk for Water show every year. They do a lot of things in that. Now, I did my orientation in that room. So I don't know if they always do orientation, but they happen to do my orientation in that room. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, this is real. I'm going to do this. I need to embark on this. This is happening. But let's fast forward to years later. I actually got invited back to that same grand room as a keynote speaker for a graduation ceremony. So I was really excited. I stood up front of the students who were about to graduate, and they're probably thinking, they're nervous and hopeful and ready and all the things. And I got to be the person that sat there and told them you're going to be okay. Your career is starting. You did amazing. You did it, all the things. So, but when I found myself standing in the Grand again recently, because I was just there, I felt all of those emotions hit me at once. So sitting in the orientation, standing at that podium, being the keynote speaker, and, now this version of me standing there knowing I'm in the middle of something completely new right now, right? It's crazy. So, what I want to kind of share a little bit more about today, though, is, I think a lot of people are thinking this way. And maybe you're in this moment right now where you're approaching something new and something exciting, and you're kind of having to look back, right? So, I want you to look at this new and exciting adventure that you're about to go on as a pivot, right? Because we sometimes look at it as like a rebrand or a refresh or something like that. But no, it's a real pivot. Like whatever you are doing, you're doing something that's different than what you're doing currently, right? So, but I want you to look at like, everything you've built and say, I'm proud of this but I'm ready for what's next. Because sometimes when we're building something new or trying something new, I don't know, we become complacent about where the path that leads us to that, right? And I don't want to become complacent with that. I want to appreciate the path that I've been on. I want to appreciate the places I've been, the education I've gotten, just the memories in general, right? I've spent the last 15 years building Sapphire Spa. So 15 years of doing lashes, facials, massage, building a team, building clientele, building a reputation, doing all of these things that go into building a business, right? And I love all that. I genuinely love what I built. I love my clients. But I will say something started shifting in me, and something kind of woke up in me I hadn't felt in a long time. And that was like the curiosity. So back in 2022, I started doing business coaching. And so I started coaching people more with marketing and just how to open their own business and, all the things that go along with that. So that was kind of my first awakening of, that feeling of, okay, there's something more going on here. I need to, investigate what this pivot might be. And now I'm still going to be offer business coaching services, but I'm not going to be offering on a wide scale. I'm going to be very selective of who I choose to take as a client for that, and keep it really small. So now I'm stepping into iridology and Reiki. So I feel like this is another layer of wellness, so that, it's very similar to what I've been on. It's just a little different, right? So I don't feel like I'm really abandoning the beauty industry necessarily. It's kind of me expanding beyond that, right? It's like I'm building my next chapter. You know what I mean? So, but pivoting is not cute. It's not adorable when you're going through it. When you're in the middle of it, it's not necessarily what you want to post online, right? It's not like necessarily the highlight reel that you're thinking of. It's messy, right? So there are days where I think like, who am I without my business, without Sapphire Spa, without lashes, without all these other things that kind of I attach to, right? What if people like don't follow me into this next phase? What if, I'm too far in to start over, or, there's all these things that come up. So it is definitely something that brings me back, to that grand room in Aveda, and thinking back of like when I first sat in orientation and not knowing anybody in that room and honestly not really knowing my path forward even at that point. So at that point I had worked in the beauty industry, right? I had worked for a while front desk. I worked for 3 different salons and spas previous to me going back for aesthetics. But I still didn't know what that path looked like, but I knew I would figure it out, right? I knew that, it's going to be something that I'm going to have to embark on and be really brave through. So I don't want you to look at a pivot or a change or whatever you want to call it in your life as like a crisis, because we kind of feel like maybe it would be. I want you to think of this change, this new beginning, this pivot as growth, and you're just saying yes to it in a more, loud way, right? So if you are a service provider, like a beauty professional, or even just an entrepreneur, and you're not in the beauty industry, maybe you're more in the wellness industry, and you have been feeling that pull towards something new, I want you to hear this. So you don't have to blow everything up to evolve. Okay. You don't have to apologize for outgrowing what you built either. And you don't have to wait until everything is perfect, like everything is perfectly mapped out, everything's perfect, all the little things are in order before you take the first step, honestly. And you just like honestly have to be willing to stand in your own grand, so to speak, stand in that own big room, right? So whatever that room is and whatever kind of that feeling is for you when you feel that excitement, and let yourself feel the full weight of how far you've actually come in life, how, the steps that you did take to get there. And take that next step anyway, right? And go for it, whether you kind of feel like you can or not. Because that's what I'm doing. Sapphire Wellness is my new business going forward, and it's coming very soon. And, I'm finishing up my iridology certification right now. I'm on my path to becoming a Reiki person, and I'm bringing you with me every step of this way, by the way. So stay tuned as I make my, path and pivot and my new, way going forward. But I just want to hopefully inspire you to keep on going and taking that first step and maybe trying that new thing, or maybe you have been thinking about something for a long time. Like maybe this is the time and you're feeling nudged to it. So I want to thank you for being here in my path and, listening to my path. If this episode does resonate with you, maybe share it with someone who's in the middle of their own pivot or middle of their own exciting new thing that they, want to do. And they need to hear somebody else that's going through something as well. And if you want to, follow my journey, please continue to listen to the podcast. But I also will probably be sharing this on social media just a little bit more. I'm going to try my best to be brave with that one. So follow me on TikTok or Instagram. Those are the places I show up the most. And I will put links for both of those in the show notes if you don't already follow me. Other than that, be brave, stick to it, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening.